Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Brenda Helget, Executive Director of A Time to Heal Cancer Foundation. Time to Heal is a nonprofit organization. It was founded by Dr. Stephanie Korleski and Dr. Kay Ryan in 2005. They wanted to create a program and research-based resources available in a book, and then it turned into a curriculum, and which has now spawned several other programs across the board. And we offer completely free services to anyone, anywhere in the world. So far this year, I think we've served about 40 states and 5 countries so far this year. And it's very, very exciting. These folks are finding us. We don't have a major marketing budget, so we run 100% on your generosity. We do not get any government funding or state funding or anything of that kind. Donors are what makes A Time to Heal available to anyone who needs it. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first panelist, George Heffley. And so I'm going to read a little bit about his bio here. Hold on just a minute. I'm going to admit a few other people. So George Heffley, he has been a participant of A Time to Heal's advanced. Please mute your computer. Thank you.
Be right back.
Somebody wants to participate. That's fun. So George Heffley was first diagnosed with rectal cancer in May of 2009. The cancer had spread to the left lung, requiring another round of chemo treatment through June of 2010. The cancer recurred in the lung, and the left lobe was removed in August 2014, followed by more oral chemo for 6 years. During the early part of the pandemic, George was diagnosed with stage 2, grade 8 prostate cancer. Due to his earlier cancer treatment, surgery and radiation was not available to George. Currently, this cancer is stable with palliative care, and he is waiting on FDA approval for new treatment. George and his wife have successfully met all of the challenges that cancer typically presents and has survived them all. So we are going to get going here with George. George, I think reading your bio and seeing you here with us today, it's just amazing to me how you look great. You have a great positive attitude. And my first question to you, George, is how do you keep a positive attitude when the cancer returns?
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm glad I have an opportunity to meet with you and spend some time with you today. At first, when I've heard the phrase "it's back" numerous times, 4 or 5 times, and at first, I do not have a positive attitude. It's a terrible disappointment, and it's usually happens after a long and difficult period of treatment, which could be surgery, maybe radiation, and usually chemo. So it's just not one of those things you want to hear. I dealt with that for quite a while the first year that I had cancer, and then one morning I woke up and I said, cancer may kill me, but it's not going to do it today. And then shortly after that, I took a course with Stephanie and at Time to Heal. And I learned in that I can have, create the best life you can today. Okay, stay in the moment, but try and do the best you can, whatever your circumstances may be. From that, I found out that it's just extremely useful not to get worrying about what has happened to you in the past or what might be going on in the future. You lived it today in the moment today, and today is something you can do something about. I can't live with 1 foot in yesterday and 1 foot in tomorrow without doing all over today. So I can do something today that will help make me feel better and help me deal with the circumstance no matter what it is. If you have to get down to the point where you gotta go minute by minute, it still works. So stay in the moment, live this thing one day at a time, and 1 minute at a time, whatever it takes, it will change. Later on, in many years later, and this has been the trend, I've learned that a lot of people are living with cancer for a lot longer period of time. So when you hear the words, it's back, it doesn't necessarily mean the same disaster that it did 10 years ago or 15 years ago. We have a lot of people that are living with major cancers long time and actually putting together some pretty good quality of life. So my next rule that I have for myself is I never plan any events or any in concrete plans any farther out into the future than my next CAT scan and test. I've had a few plans changed by CAT scan outcomes. So I just don't do it. If I have expectations out 6 months from now, and something goes with the cancer, it just adds to your negative burden. Okay. The last thing I can say about my attitude, it's really the only thing in cancer world that I can control. And I can choose to be positive about it, or I can choose not to be. Choice is up to me. That's how I approach that and how I get out of the funk and try and get back in, because the next thing you do is once you get positive, you can find things you can do much easier than the other way around.
George, do you ever allow yourself to have a pity party day where you just say, you know what, today's the day I'm just gonna stay in bed and do nothing and allow it to kind of allow myself to feel these feelings, and then tomorrow's another day and it's going to be better? Do you ever do something like that?
That's why I have dogs. They won't let you do it. There's an old phrase out there that says, I really can't, if you're fighting cancer, you really can't afford a negative thought.
And so what do you do to get out of those negative thoughts? If you're experiencing a pretty tough day, what's kind of your go-to to try to get yourself up?
It's what comes to mind is some of the bigger surgeries that I've had. And you get home and you can't do anything. You can't get up, you don't want to eat, you're in a lot of pain. You have to do the same cycle, is that you can't get into the pity party. And in order to do that, you have to keep in front of your mind is this is not going to last forever. It will get better. And I have to encourage my body to do that. And I'm not saying I don't ever have a negative thought or don't get into a pity party, but there's usually somebody around here that usually a pooch or a wife, they'll tell me to get off my duff and get to work.
I love that.
So you mentally have to get into action mentally before you can drag your body along.
That's very true. And another tip I have is laughter.
We laugh a lot.
Yep. If go find a favorite TV show that makes you laugh if nobody's around, and binge that for a little while just to get yourself out of it. I think that can help too. So George, something I really I've always admired about you is that you are very, very much an advocate for your own health. And please share how you kind of stay aware and react to the changes in your health and how you communicate effectively with your oncology team.
Okay. I'm going to read from my notes here because I had to think about this one. And it basically boils down to, for me, it's know your body, know your cancer, know your oncology team, and deal with your side effects as much as best you can. I believe that I'm still alive here because I had an oncologist and an organization, an oncologist who wouldn't let me get very far out of their sight because they, quote unquote, they didn't trust me. And what I mean by that, and that's kind of a joke, is that I didn't get this state using the really good judgment I got here because I was using poor judgment, and I can't get out of this problem with the same fine thinking I got into it. So my oncology group and my oncologist in particular kept me on a short leash and kept me coming to them regular, and I mean monthly or by every other month, and regular scans, regular tests, so that if this thing comes back, you can get it before it's hopefully hasn't grown very much or spread. This particular true if you have metastatic cancer, because you have to be, you still have to try and get it as early as you can, and you only got so many body parts that you can throw away. So it becomes more and more critical that they catch it. Well, I still, I'm kind of on a long leash now, and I still go up and do my labs every other month, see the oncologist, and I was real close to my primary care doctor at one time, and we made sure that she was in the loop all the time, but she's gone on and retired due to COVID. So you just can't assume that this thing has gone away, because that's not the nature of the beast in a lot of cases. I think it's also important to know, look at your lab test and understand what it means and how it feels. For instance, what does high blood pressure feel like? That's one thing. Another instance, in particular with me, is because I was left with anemia as a side effect, is, what does that hemoglobin number mean as part is going for a walk in the morning or walking up and down stairs and that sort of thing. So what do those numbers really mean? And what are the key ones that you need to look at on a daily basis? Because those are the ones that you need to try and improve to make your quality of life better. That may seem like an awful long way around the horn, because there's a lot of numbers in there, but you need to know what's critical, and you need to know what numbers you need to do. And then your diet and exercise and those other factors will have more meaning. So, I get low on iron, so I can tell pretty much when I need to take it. It's got some problems if you don't. Sometimes I can't take it, but you can eat spinach or something with it in there. So let's know those numbers and know what they mean and how they feel. The next rule I have is the fine thinking that I got into my problem with, I needed to change. And I didn't even have a primary care doctor until a year before I got diagnosed with cancer. And, I just didn't take very good care of myself. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I didn't know what, you go to the doctor, it's all Greek, you don't know what they're talking about or what it means. So I decided I was going to spend at least one day a week learning about health issues and cancer in particular. And I've done that religiously for 14 years. And be surprised how much knowledge you can pick up researching your particular circumstances. And you want to do high quality research when you do it. You want to stay into clinical trials. I told my oncologist I just love going to bed at night with an issue of the Annals of Oncology. That's always good for a laugh. But stay into high quality stuff. It's hard reading sometimes, but over time you'll appreciate that you have a better conversation with your healthcare providers. I do something maybe a lot of people don't, but I picked it up at A Time to Heal. And at the end of the course, they have you put down your goals, or at least they used to, and get them into writing. I've done that ever since. And I go a little bit step because I'm not afraid to share that with my doctors and seek comments and other healthcare providers, and then I follow up on it. And I was just up to talk to my oncologist yesterday, and we reviewed our goals and set the new ones. I've been known to write notes and letters to doctors, because that 15 minutes that they want you to get in and out, why they, keep their billable hours up, isn't always enough time for you to get it out. Plus, I used to forget things. So I take care of that in short notes to doctors. Sometimes they get a little long, but I'm careful to use what I learned in my research and it's kind of like watching Dragnet. Anybody can remember, you just the facts, man. That's all they want to know. I've had doctors that tell me that's been really good for them, because you can get more when they have time to look at you, they can give you a little better attention to your case. So yeah, but how you do it can, is pretty, you got to be pretty careful not to upset anybody.
Yes, exactly. Well, George, we need to move on to our next set of speakers. Thank you so much. Everyone, remember, you're going to have a chance to ask questions here at the end. Or please put them in the chat. And we do have a question from Katie that I'm going to actually give to Joe and Marlon here, but let me introduce them very quickly. So thank you, George. And so Marlon and Joe Fritz, they were participants of our Survivorship 101 class. Marlon was diagnosed with stage 2 ovarian cancer. She had surgery and prepared to start and did a chemotherapy. And because her treatment took place in the middle of the pandemic, she frequently was isolated and especially away from her husband and best friend, Joe. So for Marlon, she felt her most vulnerable after treatment ended. I remember her famous quote about that is she says, you're going to all these appointments and treatments and things like that, and you have all these people around you, and then suddenly it feels like you fell off the edge of a cliff. They say your treatment's done, go have your life. And what life? It's so different now. What is next? So she spent a lot of time searching the internet for answers, and that's where she found A Time to Heal. It was during class that Marlon first learned of Joe's feelings and got a better understanding of what he was going through. So I want you to welcome both Marlon and Joe. And the first question I'm going to ask, and we're going to go off script a little bit here, is the chat question. Katie says, I was diagnosed at age 34, stage 1. I just finished treatment and I'm struggling to adjust to side effects I was not told about, and of course fear of reoccurrence, because I hope to live for decades ahead. Mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, how do people cope? And I think you and Joe have a great answer to how you two cope.
My initial, when I was diagnosed in the middle of COVID, where it was, I was told I had cancer after alone in the room, and I was like, well, wait a second. And I had to get Joe on the phone so he could hear it, because he was sitting in the car with me. So our whole, besides the fact of having cancer was traumatic, I think the whole COVID thing added
the wall of separation forced on us.
It was, having to go through cancer is bad enough, but those of us that went through it with COVID times could deserve an extra medal because it was just unreal. But after the treatment was finished, I kind of flailed around. Sorry, I try not to get emotional with this stuff, you know, even so as far down the pike as it's been. But it's because you always expect, and I know every single person on this call feels this, whether you're in the middle of treatment or you're finished with it, or you're however far down the pike, it's coming back and it's right here and it's waiting. So what you have to do is try to try to ignore it as best you can. But that said, I think I thought for a long time it was just why bother. Sorry, I didn't think I was going to get
No,
this.
Let me jump in if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. We understand. It's okay. We're right there with you.
So I thought for probably 6 months to a year, why bother? Fell into a hole. I'm dying anyway. It's coming back. Forget it. And that's when I found the Time to Heal class. And it was like, oh, look, this is going to help a lot. So even though my side effects, I've got neuropathy still, it's almost 3 years down the pike where I can't, sometimes I'll be walking and it just, my legs just go. I mean, completely gone. I still have really bad, because I'm on an oral chemo, I have really bad joint pain. I'm on an estrogen blocker, which basically I'm menopause forever. To which my oncologist says, well, you know, if you don't like the side effects, stop taking the pill. And I'm like, oh, if I stop taking the pill and the cancer comes back, it's my fault then, right? But that's a whole nother story. But let's get back on this. I was on this black hole and I didn't know what to do. And I found the Time to Heal. And it was like, whoa, this is like a lifeline. And so appreciative, because it was like, it made me realize, you know what, there is a tomorrow. Tomorrow's coming back. This cancer, I can't control if it comes back or not. So just try to live every day as you can. I know some people will try to, you know, change how they eat, how they do, how they feel. I did for a while, and then it was like, you know what? I didn't eat myself into cancer. I'm not eating myself out of it. If I'm dying, I want a Hershey bar in my mouth as opposed to a piece of broccoli. So that's just, you know, for me, that's just how we go forward. But I really thought that the world was going to end, and then realized, you know what, it's not. And then I started doing physical therapy, started walking, and I got a lot better than I was mentally and physically. I think, and I keep going back to the book that they talk about, because the book helps on a lot of different areas, not just your physical ones that you're dealing with, mental, emotional. When Joe talks, you'll hear, because I had no idea. When you again, all the cancer folks here, this is cancer. This is cancer. Everything's me. Him, he was there, he was helping, but I had no clue what it did to the caregiver side. So, but again, he'll tell you his story. But I made my turn the corner, I think, when I made my, when I reached the 6 month coming back to the doctor, and my appointment was going to be the following February. And I was like, oh, because everything I do has to be on a calendar, because I also have chemo brain. And if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. So as soon as the doctor said I was clear, got 6 months, we went to Office Depot and I bought a calendar for the following year at full price, which to me is a sin, and no one should pay full price for a calendar. But I bought a calendar full price and I put that appointment on that calendar, because I said, I am going to be alive for this, as opposed to why bother, I'm going to be dead, which is how I started this whole journey, to, you know what, it's not going to stop. It's going on the calendar. And that's how and now we go on trips, we do things, because we can't have this lasso around us of cancer keeping us back. So If the cancer comes back, we'll deal.
Can I add a couple?
Go ahead. He wants to.
No,
add-
no, you had a
I
couple
know
words.
Brenda, Joe wants to talk.
That's all right.
I'll be very brief. You know, and there were a couple of turning points that Marlon didn't mention. One came from our oncologist, where he told her the story of Damocles and the sword of Damocles, where this guy basically made a deal to get everything in the world, but he had to have the sword hanging over his head by a string. And he was so concerned about that sword hanging over his head by a string that he didn't enjoy the world around him. And he said, one day at a time, take each day and make the very best of every day. You know, I've been in a lot of caregiver support groups, and there was one gentleman who had basically said that he and his wife have come to the conclusion that you know, they have to accept the cancer, whether it's dormant, whether it's active, as part of their lives, as we would accept any other thing going on with us, and make the best of your life every single day. And I think when we talk about some of the other stuff later, you might see that we're doing a little bit of that. And I think it's good. You never know what you're going to hit in the road or get hit by in the road. By all rights, we should have been killed in 2008 when we got rear-ended by a bus when we were on a motorcycle. And but we're still here. So the good Lord took smiling upon us and has us here to this very day. And I hope he has us here for a long time, but you never know. You never know what's going to get you or when. So that's it.
As far as the side effects, folks, I looked in the chat again. The chemo hits us all different ways. My cancer is different than yours, which is different than Marion's, Janine's, Kate. Every single one of us is different. Which is also another thing that you need to do. You can't say, I have this cancer. Here's a friend of mine or somebody I met, their cancer went this road. And then you put your head into that road because you're going down it too. You can't do that. Everybody's different. This is your journey. It's your cancer. It's your diagnosis. And it's kind of sad that we all have to, some of us have better doctors than others. And we all have to advocate for ourselves, where now I'm going to, actually on Monday, hallelujah, she's a cancer specialist from the Mayo Clinic who's starting a practice here in Tucson. And she just works with cancer patients for side effects and extra testing. Because I don't know if your oncologist is like this, but if your blood pressure is high or your heart's having issues, you go to the cardiologist, you go to the urologist, you go to this. It's not his wheelhouse. His job is to get the cancer stable, and that's it. And you've got to find ways to take care of yourself. So you need to find a primary or somebody that can help, because there is a lot of things out there for side effects, not only drugs, because I'd rather stay away from the drugs if I can, but physical therapy. There's supplements you can take, but again, you have to be careful. You can't just go on a Facebook page and say, oh, look, it's working for this one. You have to, of course, run it through somebody who has the knowledge that, you know, would be able to help you. So cancer is a terrible thing that leaves you with gifts that you really, you know, after gifts that you really don't want, that turn up years later, and you just kind of got to roll with it. And for me, I'm just thankful, because it's like, okay, if the worst case is my legs give out, fair trade, cancer doesn't come back, perfect. I'll be okay with it.
So I think I just want to recap just a little bit between the three of you so far and what I'm hearing. By the way, I'm also a cancer survivor. I'm 7 years out from triple negative breast cancer, in case anybody's interested. But what I'm hearing from so far for the mental and emotional part is focus on what you can control and focus on today. What can I do today to help me? What can I control? And if I can't control it, I need to push those thoughts away as best as I can. I also believe, and as George said, don't try not to get sucked down into the pity party. Do whatever it takes to keep positive, whether that's, you know, laughter is the best medicine, as they say. which is a great thing. But Joe and Marlon, I'd like to talk about what you two do, and this is going a little bit off script. Because you two do it better than anyone, I think, in terms of living life and enjoying life. Tell everybody what you're doing right now, which is really fun.
Right now, we're both baseball fans, Arizona Diamondback, woo. But we realized how much we liked the baseball and that we really wanted to go to all the different Major League Baseball stadiums. So we're in the middle of going to every Major League stadium in the country. There's 30 of them. We just finished a road trip where we finished number 26. So
awesome. Great for you. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is another way you two have channeled what is going on. Both of you have very successfully channeled it into helping others, helping other cancer survivors, helping other caregivers. You want to talk about that just briefly?
well, for me, it's because I'm almost 3 years out, fingers crossed. I see my oncologist at the end of the month, and hopefully everything I'll be clear. That'll be my 3 years. But I feel I have to be there because the newbies, or the newly diagnosed folks. And again, when you're first diagnosed, your first thought is, I'm dead. This is it, I'm dead. You go home, you tell your family, you cry, you hold your kids tight because you're gonna die. And that is such a feeling that I remember. And it's very difficult sometimes to, to relive things, but I feel that I have to, because I have to let others know that there is a tomorrow. That, yeah, losing your hair is garbage and the way you feel is terrible and this and that, but you can get through it. It might not be easy, but there is a tomorrow. So that's why I continue to go forward, to let the newly diagnosed people know that. So.
Amazing. And just one other thing I wanted to talk about, because this was a pivotal moment. I happened to be in the class with Joe and Marlon when they kind of had their epiphany, and it was very, very moving. And I just wanted to talk about that moment where Joe said, I need to talk about how I'm feeling, and I need Marlon to hear this. But it was so funny because he made Marlon kind of sit back behind him because he couldn't look her in the eyes as he's talking. We were on Zoom just like we are now, but he needed to get it out, and we were all crying, I think, that day. But Joe, talk a little bit about that, because I think it's very important for all of us as survivors, because I kind of had that moment with my own family. Talk about how Marlon's, her treatment, what she was going through affected you, and that moment that you needed to kind of let out your thoughts and feelings and what that was about.
And make her get behind me this time because you've got me feeling emotional again. Thank you.
Oh, no.
Well, first off, and again, I don't remember exactly what I said that day. I just did a major outpouring of what was in my heart and in my chest and on my shoulders. But I think one of the key things is, and the key difference I saw before I said that was, I would always be talking to Marlon about our cancer, and she would get mad. What do you mean our cancer? It's I have cancer, you don't. And it was at the point that, because I'm a great communicator when it comes to things that are meaning. I have difficulty sharing that, especially with the person I love the most.
Joe, can you get a little closer to the mic? You're cutting out just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, let's see if that works better.
Like I say, I can communicate very well on the business level. When it comes to talking about the things that are very near and dear to my heart, it's really hard to share them. Because again, the era we grew up in, man is the one to protect and shield a woman in a marriage. That's how I was raised. And I realized that, we're equals and everything else, but that's in there. Ever.
Joe, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I don't know what's going on with your audio, but we're having some kind of weird problem. I apologize, but can I jump in when you're messing with that? Because there was one other moment you talked about too, that I want you to think about, all of you, who your caregiver is. Okay, whether that's a best friend, a husband, a wife, whatever. And I want you to imagine for a moment, what if you were the caregiver? So in your normal relationship every day, okay, when in a normal relationship every day, do you fight with your loved ones? Yes, right? Do you get angry at each other? Yes. Imagine being that loved one and your caregiver, and this is the same relationship you've had, and you as a survivor are really going through it. And probably your patience is not as long as it normally is, right? And you're going to be testy, like Marlon was. Imagine being the caregiver and thinking to yourself, I can't be mad at my loved one. I can't be mad at someone who has cancer. What a horrible feeling. What a horrible thought that they can't act the same way or be the same way, because then they feel like a horrible person. Or at the opposite end of the spectrum, they feel so incredibly helpless that they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. So they just say nothing. Or maybe they're angry for you. So these are some things I think we don't think about and that we need to be aware of with our caregivers. I know with my kids, I remember my son came over one day and he was teasing me because he has that kind of sense of humor. And he said, and I was relaying how I was feeling, which was rotten. I couldn't get off the couch. I was so weak from the chemo and so sick. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink. And he said, Mom, don't be such a sissy. And I blew up. And I said, how dare you? How dare you speak to me that way? You don't know what I'm going through. And that's when it hit me. He didn't know what I was going through. Why? I had never shared it with him. Because I'm supposed to be the big, strong mom. So these are the kinds of things that can happen in the relationship. And this is why Joe and Marlon made such an impact on me when they were talking, because it was so clear at that moment how important communication is with your caregiver, and that you need to be open. You need to have those conversations, even if they're difficult and even if they're angry. Joe, can you jump in here?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
that's
now?
so much better. Yes, thank you.
I took out the big guns.
I love it. You sound great.
Yeah, well, anyhow, I pulled it off my work equipment, so it works. Anyhow, again, a lot of everything before that point in time, most of it was internalized, and a lot of it was, again, out of trying to protect Marlon, and also trying to protect myself, because I wasn't opening up. I wasn't really exposing myself. Yet, as a result, the times that I felt grief over this, the times that I felt pain, I totally and completely internalized. And I basically opened up and let everything out, telling everyone, including Marlon, who I couldn't look at, the challenges that I was feeling, the pain, and the road that we were walking down, the fears that I had, and I just shared them, and it was taking a load off my shoulders. But it wasn't until I felt her hand during that conversation on my shoulder that I came to the realization that she finally understood why it was our cancer. You know, she's my wife. We are one. And if I were to ever lose her, I would be losing truly the biggest part of me. And maybe I don't tell her that enough, and I might not be great at showing it. You know, again, going back to that subliminal upbringing, you show it by providing, by doing and so forth. And, you know, she's always told me you need to show it by sharing. And I think that where we are today, I am trying real hard to do that, and it's enjoyable. But you still have the other burdens to deal with. But, you know, I think that just having that opportunity to open up and share and just let everything out was good for me, and I think it was good for us. So I hope that's what you wanted to hear, Brenda. but,
Yes, I did.
That's
And
about all I can handle right now.
that's all right. Thank you for being so vulnerable. We appreciate that. And you got me crying again as usual. So Joe these two, I mean, folks, we pick these speakers for a reason. And that not only are they wonderful individuals, they're so supportive to others in the community. George, I know, is instrumental. He is kind of the unofficial leader of our advanced chronic support group because he's been so much. He's still standing strong. And I know when I was going through it, those are the people I wanted to talk to and see, because I thought that's going to be me someday. I'm going to be okay. Marlon, I want to go back to you real quick. And I just wanted you to, if you're willing to talk about this, kind of describe how you feel, because I think about the folks in the chat. Describe how you feel today versus 3 months into treatment, 6 months out from treatment, a year from treatment. You know, I think we all go through some pretty incredible stages. And I just was kind of guessing on the timing, but I thought I was just thinking about my own journey, but kind of like 3 months, 6 months, 1 year out. What can these survivors in this room expect? I know everyone's journey is different, but I do think there are kind of some milestones along the way there.
Oh, the 3 month is you're halfway through, you're in the trenches. You're on the bottom part of the roller coaster and you're starting to go back up that hill. And although the side effects hit a lot harder when you're on the downside of your chemo, at least there's an end in sight. And I think everybody has it on their calendar as to when you can go. And if you can ring that, you know, if your place lets you ring the bell, because that's a huge mental thing to go through. At the 6 months, when you go in, you're like, okay, I'm clear, I'm good. That's when they pat you on the head and say, okay, bye, see you in 3 months. Have a nice life. And you're kind of struggling, trying to figure out, okay, what's next? Because I still feel like crap. I'm dealing with side effects. I don't know what to do. I don't have to get blood work every other week. I don't have to check my things. I don't have to. That's the hardest part, because you fell into a rhythm which was comfortable with your chemo. And then you don't have it anymore. And you're like, oh, if I don't have the chemo, my shield is gone, my magic shield, and the cancer is going to come back. It's going to come back. But the doctor's like, no, 3 months. And so you kind of have to adjust to that. And the terror of, for ovarian cancer folks, we have a marker, which is it's a cancer marker. And we get it tested every time we go in and we get the blood work and it's there. And it's like the terror. And I think everybody knows this, of the moment when you touch that keyboard and the number pops up. Everybody knows that terror of what's it going to be. So you kind of have to work through that. But then, and again, it took me longer than some people, most, I guess everybody's different, but it took me longer to realize that every time I went to that doctor and he said I was clear and the cancer was not there, it was a relief and sometimes a disbelief, but it was like, okay, cool, we can do this. And then when I got to the point where it was 6 months and it was like, whoa, I might actually survive this. This cancer is not going to get me. I'm going to survive this and look to the future and be able to, you know, plan trips and do things. And if the cancer comes back, okay, we'll deal with it then. But now it's always there. It's like a background noise, as are these side effects kind of thing. But I know I can deal with side effects, which a lot easier than I can with, you know, worrying about, you know, a tumor growing in me. You know, some folks are not that lucky, and it's, you know, they're being monitored to, you know, for growth of something. So for me, it's like, oh, is it coming back? But it might not. And that's what that sort of Daclamine, that's what the doctor told her. He always tells me stories about, I just need to chill out because, my fear of recurrence. And he's like, don't lose this because of that.
That's
But
great.
but yeah, that's what I think is.
Well, thank you both so much. We are gonna move on now to Shannon. And I just want to add again, one more thing about the side effects and things like that. Make no mistake, they're tough to get through. But there's always a silver lining. And for example, remember I was telling you how sick I was from the chemo. I was so jealous of people that weren't that sick. I literally lost 30 pounds in a month. And I just say to myself, hey, I lost 30 pounds. I'm a lot thinner. To try to cheer myself up, even though I was in misery, I always tried to find that silver lining. The next chemo, I got terrible neuropathy in my hands and feet and bone pain. But I said to myself, hey, I could eat. I'm not sick to my stomach anymore. This is okay. I can deal with this. Sometimes that's what you have to do. And sometimes the silver lining is, hey, I'm still here. I'm alive and I'm here. And that's kind of what you have to focus on. Shannon Velasek, she was actually part of a pilot program we did. We did a spinoff of Survivorship 101, and which of course George and Marlon and Joe mentioned that they've all been through. But we focused it on the special needs of folks that were under the age of 45. And she was also a participant in our brain fog class as well. Shannon was diagnosed with breast cancer a few days before Christmas in 2020. In her first surgery, a lumpectomy, they removed 2 tumors along with some lymph nodes. However, a third tumor was found and a bilateral mastectomy was recommended and then completed in February 2021. In order to be a candidate for reconstructive surgery, Shannon was informed that she needed to reduce her BMI. She sought a healthier lifestyle for the surgery and to lower her chance of recurrence. She lost 50 pounds. That's amazing. And had her surgery, I believe, a couple months ago, Shannon, is that right?
Yeah, I'm 2 months post-op on the 24th.
Excellent. Congratulations. And it says here that you're feeling better as each day passes. So let's get into that. And Shannon, I'm very interested in how here you are having to deal with cancer. And then on top of that, you have a whole new challenge. And your doctor is saying, if you really want to have optimal results, you need to have this, you need to reduce your BMI. So how do you deal with your, all the body changes, your mastectomy, and then you're trying to lose weight and body image, which a lot of us women especially struggle with. Tell us more about how you dealt with all of that.
Yeah, I think to start off, when I got diagnosed, I really, in my heart, felt it was early. And so before, the beginning stages when you're scared just of the unknown, because I had 2 little ones, and letting them know so they don't worry, that it's fine. I think it's early. And then I went in for my first surgery with the lumpectomy. I decided to do a reduction, and that ended up saving my life because at the pathology, they had found 5 total tumors, and there is some cancer that has started in my right side as well. And he had said, you're stage 3 at this point, because I hadn't had any scans done. So I felt like someone just pulled the rug out from under me. And trying to have that conversation with your kids is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But I went through chemo and radiation, and I was told with my situation, I had to wait a year. That's what my surgeon says before I could do, or we could talk about reconstruction. I went in a year later. Well, there on my left side, there was so much damage from radiation. He said, I'm gonna have to refer you out. I don't feel comfortable with your case. With radiation, you heal from the inside out, and my skin was still very red a year out. So then he referred me to a plastic surgeon at Bellevue Medical Center in Omaha, Nebraska, and she specializes in reconstruction for cancer patients. And when I finished treatment, I knew, because you know that weight on your shoulder, that recurrence, it's very much a real fear. I knew that I needed to do everything I could to prevent that recurrence. I know it's out of our hands, but just changing my lifestyle. So when I finished treatment, I was pretty darn weak, but I started, I think it was less than 10 minutes on the treadmill. I barely made it, but so I just started walking. And then when I found out I had to lower my BMI, she said it needs to be under 40, and my BMI was at 41. I downloaded this free app just to find out how many calories my body needed daily, and what foods to eat. And then I was determined, because I knew this was my only option if I wanted this piece of my life back. I feel like cancer, it takes so much away from you that we have no control over, right? And so this is that one piece of me that I feel like I had control over. So, but it almost forced me to change my lifestyle in regards to a healthier eating. And right before surgery, I was walking 2 miles 5 times a week. I mean, just by sticking with it, and up until surgery. And then right the day of surgery, my BMI was down to 37.2, but which is wonderful. But looking back, I know, because the surgery ended up being 10 hours. I had a DIEP flap procedure. And for those of you that don't know what that is, they transfer tissue from your abdomen and make breast tissue. And I feel like she prepared me very well. If I hadn't have lost all that weight, I think I would have struggled a lot more trying to bounce back. But I actually last week just started walking again. My abdomen muscles, I kind of joke around, but there's a lot of work that was done in surgery, you know, with my abdomen muscles. And when they start spasming, it feels like contractions. So I'm like, I didn't sign up for having another baby. But they do have this support thing I wear around my waist all the time, and that really helps with that. But the doctor did say it takes a full year for you to fully recover. So, but I tell you what, my faith has brought me so far. I feel like there's one time that stands out to me, from the day in the surgeon's office when I got the stage 3 diagnosis. Of course, I went from thinking it was early, so let's try to save what we can, to get my breast off of me as fast as you can, and then just save my life. And I just was very fortunate to have such a wonderful medical team. I'm not going to lie, the changes that cancer creates for you. So shopping was depressing. A lot of my shirts, I got rid of some, but then I kept a few I pushed to the back of the closet in hopes that someday I'd feel comfortable wearing those again. Going swimming with my kids. My mother-in-law, ironically, happens to be a prosthetic or mastectomy fitter, or mastectomy. She specializes in that. So she got me a prosthesis, and she helped make one in a swimming suit that I could still go swimming with my kids. I still didn't feel comfortable because I really didn't want to become a flotation device. But it just got to a point that I just was sick of wearing it, and I didn't care, you know. And it's easy for others. Like my dad he didn't want me to go through another big surgery if I didn't have to. So He was very supportive, but at first he just, and I don't expect anyone to understand unless you are in that position. But I'm the one every day that was having to look at my body in the mirror. And I was trying to stay strong because I have, well, I have a little daughter that's 10, so she would have been about 8. And I have, at the time he would have been 12, a son. You know, I don't want them to see me that I want them to have their confidence, right? And so I really tried to be strong around them. And this journey, I feel like my faith has grown a lot. So instead of worrying about the recurrence factor, it's more just, you know what, it's out of my hands. God's timing. You know, I have no control over that. But I tell you what, after surgery and the first day I was able to wear one of my shirts that I pushed to the back of my closet, I ran into a good friend and she said, "You are glowing."
Oh,
And I just feel like I got a piece of my life back. But could I just quick touch on when I finished treatment? I was so lost. I feel like we go through PTSD, right? And there's emotions and trauma that's, I feel like this all like snuck up on me because I had the mindset, okay, I need to get back to where I was, you know, and it helped the Survivorship 1.0 class for me to realize that it's going to be a new normal. There's no way. But looking back, I feel like I've grown so much. And being an advocate, I feel, so I started noticing having biopsies approximately a couple years before I was diagnosed because I noticed some changes. And I was 38 and there was talk of doing a mammogram, but they didn't because I was not 40. And younger women, their tissue is a lot more dense. So that's why a lot of younger women, when they get diagnosed, if they do, it's further along because my advocacy comes more from get the mammogram, like be your own personal advocate. If you feel in your body something is wrong, do not ignore it. Because when my surgeon told me that he thought my cancer had been growing for a year and a half, I'm not gonna lie, I try really hard not to get back in that dark place, but I had so much resentment and anger. So if I can help anyone, like young women, help advocate for them, I'm all for it.
wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon. And I echo all of that. And I also want to mention for folks both in Nebraska and outside of Nebraska, we do have a wonderful resource page on our website. I really encourage you to look at that. We have resources, including an organization called Inner Beauty here in Omaha, and they are mastectomy fitters, if you will, and also do wigs and scarves and things like that. And there's probably something like that in your own area. But I really urge you to go to that website, to our website, look for resources. And it is a huge long list, everything from career advice, you know, how to talk to your employer, those kinds of things, to body image and on and on and on. We mentioned earlier supplements. We actually right now, I know this is going to sound like a commercial, forgive me, but we do have, we have a wonderful expert. She's done this a few times on Create Your Best Life, Dr. Terry Gable. She's a pharmacist, and she has written a lot of books and papers on supplements. She was a speaker at our conference recently. For a $35 donation, you can get access to her presentation and her handout, along with about 11 other wonderful presentations that we have at the conference. And you can watch them as many times as you want. And it's really worth the $35 donation. So if you would go to our website, you can find that, and I think that will help you. But right now, it is time for questions. And I think, so if you want to come off mute and raise your hand, whatever you want to do. We've had some good talk in the chat. I think folks have been keeping up with that. Who's got a question for our speakers? Anybody? Oh, is everyone going to be shy? Come on. I would think you have lots and lots of questions. I know for me, when we talked about, say, 3 months out, 6 months out, one of my big things is, when is my hair going to come back? I lost my eyelashes, my eyebrows, everything. I was, and the answer is it is different for everybody. But I remember Googling and just freaking out because I didn't think my hair was going to come back. And then it came back almost like with a vengeance. It went from absolutely nothing to suddenly, about this long. It felt like in just a few weeks after months of nothing. And you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to have hair again. You will. It's, and I can see some people rocking fabulous short hair. I wonder if their hair is just coming back. I was just I was so excited because it came back curly. As you can see, that didn't last, which was very disappointing for me. But anyway, always looking for the silver lining. I thought I lost all my hair, but I got curly hair for a while. And I was so excited. Okay, it looks, somebody's raised their hand. And I can't tell who it is. Go ahead and speak up. If you got a question. Catherine, there you go.
Hi, and I'm staying off camera because I'm walking around right now, but I'm actually out in Omaha, Nebraska. I will also give a little plug for Inner Beauty. They, even in their marketing, they don't really talk about how it also, they say cancer patients, but it highlights, wigs and prosthetics, and for mastectomy patients too, who just can't wash their hair because you can't move your arms above your head for a good 3 weeks to a month. They will wash your hair and style it and everything, and there's no cost, and it's just amazing. And it doesn't matter which healthcare system you're part of. I will give that's an amazing plug. So but my question, so I'm kind of a singleton. I have a boyfriend, but he's not really a caregiver. And what I've run into the most, and I think you mentioned it just kind of briefly just now, is the how do you talk to people in the world, career advice wise? And it seems just like everybody gets different healthcare support. You also get non-support depending on where you're at and what you're doing. And again, and it seems like it's preferential treatment sometimes. Some people get some, and again, I don't know, for me, I haven't gone through chemo, knock on wood, I won't have to. It sounds like we got everything in my double mastectomy. However, I'm still going through something. And so it's like the regular world thinks chemo, cancer, that kind of support, but I'm not feeling the love from employers. I have my core group of friends, and they're being so supportive. But with a lot of the world, it's almost minimized, and it makes me really mad. And then it even gets me doubting myself. Okay, well, should I be doing more? And then I'll go strain something. And then I'll go, oh no, I can't be doing more. I shouldn't be doing, shouldn't have tried to lift that, whatever it was. So I just love to hear, folks' input on, especially from the work side, or, that self-advocacy. How do you self-advocate for folks who aren't those super close people, but, you don't make it such a big deal that you might lose your job, even though technically legally they're not supposed to, but you have that fear because they're kind of talking like you might. So I'll pass that out to everybody.
I think that's an important topic. I know I was very lucky where I worked. Of course, they were very, very supportive, but you have to remember I was fundraising for University of Nebraska Medical Center. So they had a little bit more, understanding. But I will tell you, and Katie, we're going to get to you in a second, and I want to get your input. I will tell you that a lot of it depends on how comfortable you are sharing what is going on with you, because the reality is a lot of us will look fine on the outside and we're not fine on the inside. And that may be a way to start, is that, I'm back at work. I'm so happy that I'm healing, but I want to let you know there are going to be days that I am not at my absolute best. And something Joe said, and Joe's an executive director as well, a reminder that, you've got to really kind of be open with that communication to a point, but I think it's all about how comfortable you are with your employer, how much can you express to them, but what would they do if you, say, had diabetes, or if you were struggling with diabetes, or you're struggling with, you had a heart attack and you're going through cardiac rehab, right? So there is kind of an obligation here, even though you're not going through an official rehab, you are rehabilitating at this point. But Katie, I want you to weigh in on this. You got to unmute.
Hey,
I need to unmute.
sorry,
Yeah.
I think too, and folks may know more about this, but I believe we are a protected class as cancer survivors, so you should have access to protections through HR and federal employment law. So if you're, and I would Google this, but I don't want to cut the screen, but maybe give it a Google and say disability protections for cancer patients. And I'm returning to work, and take it as slow as you can. And if you need a doctor's note, if your employer is resistant in that way, get a doctor's note to be the heavy. I feel like no one's going to argue with an oncologist or an oncology social worker. And I don't think like marketing materials, every national cancer organization needs to up their game, because for people who are stage 4, they may not be bald. For people who are under 40, we look completely different than all the marketing materials. So I don't know the answer to how we get more accurate representations of what it looks like to experience cancer. But when you need to, message somebody's comms director because their campaign doesn't represent you, I'd say let it rip. Because it's isolating when we go through something and we're not represented. But sending you love. I'm glad you're doing okay, and this is rough.
And Joe, I value your input as well as a fellow executive director. Obviously, I'm not the best person to ask, because if somebody comes to me and tells me they have cancer, of course, we're going to be so supportive. So what have you got to say about it, Joe?
Well, a couple things. I'm dealing with a similar situation from a professional standpoint with one of my employees. And again, I'm not going to give legal advice, but I will tell you, number one, you do not have to disclose what you're going through. You do not have to disclose anything about what disease you're dealing with. All right. And your company in general, and again, laws vary by state to state on accommodations. But if you get a letter from your doctor indicating, that you'll be going through treatment, so forth, there are a couple of options. Typically, first off, if you use up all of your sick time, vacation time, whatever, and you need more time off, there are medical leave programs usually supported by states throughout the United States. And all my employees are in New Jersey, even though I live in Arizona. So New Jersey has people well covered with medical leave of absence programs. But also accommodations. If fair and reasonable accommodations need to be made for you to perform your job, you need to get a letter from your doctor stating what accommodations they are. And in the state of New Jersey, as long as they do not pose a hardship on the company or the people that you're working with, they have to let you work. They have to provide you appropriate accommodations to do your job and the like. If they can't provide you those accommodations, at least in the state of New Jersey, you need to offer them a different position, especially after coming back from a medical leave of absence. Their job, or your job in most states, and I can't speak for all, is safe. But you don't even have to say, I have cancer, or I've got heart conditions, or I've got whatever. So it's up to you to what you disclose.
in Nebraska, I think the FMLA is that they will hold your job for a certain period of time, but that's it. It's up to the employer on how much, I believe, they want to contribute, or, you know, if they continue to pay you or whatever. But yes, and also I wanted to add one more thing. For anyone that is going through our brain fog program, I have a letter. And brain fog's a lot more difficult because it's not, I think most oncologists would write you a letter about that, but in case they don't, I do have a letter from me that talks about what brain fog is, and that says that your employer or your employee has sought help through us, and these are some things that you might consider doing to help them as they continue their journey. Now, that is completely up to our participants whether or not they want to use that letter or not. But we felt strongly that we needed to offer that as kind of a supplement piece. And obviously, as Joe said, unfortunately, then that obviously is clear on what's going on with them. But I just say that brain fog is caused by a lot of things. It's not just chemo. It can be COVID related. It can be related to medications, whatever. So we say that there's a lot of causes, but these are some things you could do to help your employee. So, anyone that takes our brain fog program has access to that letter if they would like, just so you know. Does anybody else have questions for this wonderful panel before we let you get back to your Saturday? I do hope everything has helped. Again, just to recap, I think we hear a lot of great messages here of living life day by day, open communication with your caregivers. But you have to be your own self-advocate always with your oncology team. Kind of really be aware of changes in your body. Pay attention to your lab results. You have to be your own advocate because no one else will at the end of the day. So pay attention to how you're feeling, pay attention to changes. In fact, George, I was going to ask you if you ever journal things. Like I sometimes will write something down. If I get a weird little pain or something, I will write it down because I want to see, is it continuing, or is it just a one-off? Because you do get to that, I don't want to say paranoid, but you do, don't you? Like, again, it's tapping you on the shoulder. You get a little lump or bump, you go, what's that? George, you want to jump in?
Okay, well, let's just, you'll go through a phase where a mosquito bite will pose as a tumor threat, okay?
Yes.
Any change is it the cancer, and anything that hurts, is it the cancer? It's just part of dealing with it. Cancer will muck with your head, okay? To answer your about journaling, I got 15 years of notes that I make every morning. I do my vitals, make a record of it, and there's lots of things in there. A lot of them have to do with side effects, and but it's hard to keep your head clear all the time. That's all there is to it. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, just to piggyback off what you said, George, I had started journaling during treatment, and it's amazing how much stuff you have. Everyone's so worried about you, and you don't want to put any more weight on their plate because they're doing so much to help you. But there is a lot that gets bottled up, and it's amazing. To journal, because you're not going to be judged. No one's going to read it, but how much better you feel getting it out, I think, is just truly beneficial.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up, and there's some great messages in the chat. Someone asked, how do we sign up for the brain fog program and those letter details? You go to atth.org. atth.org, and that's obviously short for A Time to Heal. atth.org, And there's information there. In fact, we've got some upcoming classes here that I need to share. We have brain fog starting on July 25th, 3 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday. So that's Tuesday afternoons. August 2nd, we'll have brain fog on Wednesday evening, starting at 6 p.m. And then on September 13th, Wednesday evenings again, starting at 7 p.m. And then October 4th, we will do Wednesday mornings, 9 a.m. Those are all via Zoom. We have a survivorship class coming up via Zoom starting July 18th in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. And then August 12th through October 7th, Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. in person at the Time to Heal office will be a survivorship class here in Omaha. So all of those classes are available, but just go to our website and you will be able to sign up. Again, it's completely free. You can sign up for any of one of those classes that works for you. And you can learn a lot. You just go to atth.org and click on programs there. And if you have any topics that you would like to see covered in a future Create Your Best Life, please email us at info@atimetohealfoundation.org. And now comes the part you've all been waiting for. Those of you that have stuck it out, thank you so much. And that is the free conference recordings that we were offering. And since we have such a great group today, I'm just gonna randomly pick some people. My first person I'm going to pick is you, Catherine O'Brien. You have won free access to all of our conference presentations. And I will send you that link. Hang on, don't go away. I don't want anybody else to go away because I'm still picking people. And I'm just kind of like, I'm actually just trying to pick. Paula D, you are our second winner. And so I need all you folks to email me or actually just put in the chat box, put your email address in the chat box, and then I'll send that to you. And then the next person I'm gonna pick, oh my goodness, this is so hard. I have to kind of, Nancy. I don't know Nancy's last name. Nancy, are you there? I don't know if she's there. Uh-oh, you gotta be present to win. Nancy?
Here.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh,
Nancy, put your email in the chat, would you? And then I'll send you the link to all the videos. I got 2 more I'm gonna give away. Let's see here. Marty and Tony's iPad. Marty and Tony, where are you at? Come off, there you are, I see you. You've got the beautiful yellow background. How fun. Okay, so Marty, just put your email in the chat here and I will get that to you, okay? And then
He also had a question. She put it in the chat. I just wanted to make sure that was addressed before everybody dropped.
oh, thank you. Is this which one is it? There's a lot of questions.
She was talking about not getting support again from her workplace.
Okay.
There's some back and forth going on her question.
And
Didn't mean to interrupt. I'm so
that's
sorry.
okay.
no, so this is Eva. Thank you for making mention of that. I'm just a little anxious, my first time participating, and I didn't want to take away from all the things that were happening on this supportive chat.
Eva, I see it now that you say here that you're in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
You're a healthcare worker and breast cancer survivor, and you're getting denied short-term disability because you had to decrease your hours as an accommodation from 40 to 30 to 25 to 20 and no longer considered eligible. Currently
I'm currently, yeah.
on leave as ADA due to exhausting my FMLA, even though I used to be able to work as a physical therapist. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the laws in Pennsylvania. I think Joe would probably say the same thing because the laws vary so much from state to state. I think your best bet would be to talk to somebody there in Pennsylvania, and you may have to even talk to an attorney to find out what to do for that. I'm so sorry. I wish I could help you more, and I'm so sorry that you're going
No.
through this.
Thank you. No, it's okay. I was just wondering if maybe somebody had a similar situation or ideas for other resources, but if that is the route I have to go, oh boy, that's unfortunate. And
It is. Well, let's make your day better, and we'll go ahead and you'll be our final winner.
no, you don't have to do that.
I know, but I'm going, actually, I landed on your name and I'm like, I don't know if I can pronounce this.
It's Hawaiian. Yeah.
Yes, and Hawaii is one of our favorite places. One of our founders lives in Maui part-time, so.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
I know, lucky her. Okay, everybody, what a great session it's been. Thank you so much for participating. Again, if you have any questions, suggestions, you can email info@atth.org, and we'd be happy to try to follow up. Have a great Saturday. Let's thank all of our panelists. Thank you all so much. George, Shannon, Joe, and Marlon, thank you so much. Enjoy your worldwide baseball tour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
I'm just gonna get everybody's email.
Thank you and go LSU.
Woo! Okay. Joe, Marlon, you guys got to get to the College World Series. I don't know what the deal is. You got to get here to Omaha. Okay. Thank you all.
We were talking about going up there for that.
You need to. We would be.
We're not recording anymore, are we?
Oh, I need to turn that
She's still
off.
recording us,
Yeah.
yes.